There's a big shift coming for RV living in 2021.
And if you don't prepare or understand what that shift is now, you may just find yourself wanting to give up on RV life in the coming year in 2021. So stay tuned, because in this video, we're going to talk about what that shift is and what you need to be doing right now to prepare for RV life in the coming year.
We are Charity, Ben, Dakota, and Trinity. We decided we didn't want to wait for a life of adventure. So in 2017, we bought our first RV and set off to live a life of travel in the USA. We've visited over 38 states in 3 years and have many more to go. Follow along to learn all the best places to see, RV and travel tips, and much more.
So there is a shift that is going to take place in the coming year for RVers. And what that is it's going to get really busy out there in the coming year with things like travel restrictions on international travel, less people feeling comfortable taking flights. You're going to see a huge uptick in RVing and in RV living in the year 2021.
So in this video, we are going to give you 6 tips on what you need to be doing right now to prepare yourself for RV living in 2021.
So tip number 1 is advance planning. Now, we also want to talk about contingency planning, so more on that in just a minute. But if RVing has been a fly by the seat of your pants, just go wherever the wind blows us sort of lifestyle for you, you're probably going to find that in 2021. That doesn't work as well as it used to. Campgrounds are going to be filling up more than they ever have before. There's going to be so many more RVs that are going to be out on the road than ever before. And so it's going to require a little bit of advanced planning this year to be able to enjoy RVing, so to speak. And so one of the things that we have found when it comes to planning in advance is to think about anchor points. So say, for instance, maybe you want to see Southern California. So pick an anchor point in that area and then make some reservations in that area, and then use that as your anchor point, or maybe your home base, if you will, for the time you plan on being there, to be able to branch out into the different areas that you want to go check out.
So tip number 2, you're going to want to have a backup or a contingency plan in place just in case plan A doesn't quite work out.
And one of the great things that you can put in your contingency plan is, is there an alternate place to stay? So this is where some resources like Hip Camp or Boondockers Welcome, Harvest Hosts may come in handy in 2021, because it's an alternative place to stay if those boondocking sites are full or if those campgrounds end up being full.
You're going to want to find a resource or a place that isn't going to be as populated.
Also, another thing to think about is, if you're planning on going from, say, point A to point B and point C, think about something that could be an alternative plan if for some reason a particular state or a particular area goes under some sort of restriction or some sort of lockdown. So this actually happened to us twice in 2020, where we had made reservations to stay at the Grand Canyon, and those reservations got canceled on us because the Grand Canyon was closed. So we alternatively stayed in Page, Arizona, because we still were going from point A to point C, point B being Grand Canyon. So we just were able to adjust that, but still stay on our trip route that we wanted to take. And then another contingency plan that we put in place this year was we had reservations in Canada, and those of course got canceled too with the border staying closed. And so we ended up visiting Idaho, which was not on our original list, but it was a contingency plan. And we had a really great time there and saw some really great country, and were able to finish the rest of our trip and see the other places that we had. So having that contingency plan, having kind of maybe that plan B or that plan C this year is going to be critical to being able to just enjoy RV life.
Tip number 3. So you're going to want to become a little more handy this year in 2021 because RV mobile techs are gonna be a little bit harder to come by. There's gonna be a higher demand for mobile techs and the availability just won't be there like it was before. So learn to become a little more handy, just like I have this last year. Learn how to fix things yourself. Look on YouTube, find tutorials on how to fix certain things, find out what certain trouble codes are and how to actually resolve the problem.
The reason that you want to do this is just because you need to be able to be a little bit more self-reliant in a way if you do have an issue. And after 3 years of RV living, we can tell you something's going to come up.
Yep.
Especially if you have a drivable, even a towable, really. Every time that you're moving that down the highway, it's like your home's experiencing an earthquake every time that you move.
It's like a 7 or 8 on the Richter scale.
I don't know, but something's going to come loose. Something's going to break. Some sort of wire is going to come unseated at some point.
A quick little tip. We've had 2 instances where we found out that the end result was a fuse issue. So what I will always say, because we didn't learn the first time, is always check your fuses. Know where your fuses are and check those first.
Another great resource is at RVIA, where they actually have an online tech school. So if that is something that is up your alley or something that you're willing to do, it's a great education to get, and you're just setting yourself up to be a little bit more self-reliant if and when something happens with your rig.
So tip number 4, you're going to want to have a cost or budget projection in place.
And we'll talk about this more in a future video, but we just know that with supply and demand, that is always what has driven pricing. And so with the increased demand and maybe not a plentiful supply with things like campgrounds, we're definitely expecting that some of those campgrounds are going to start costing more, as well as fuel prices are always kind of iffy. But before you set out on the road, you always want to make sure that you've got just something laid out to where you're not out on the road and then putting yourself in a bind financially because you didn't do some advanced planning or budgeting when it came to cost projection.
Tip number 5, if you are planning on purchasing an RV, they're going to be a little harder to come by these days.
So you want to be ready to make that decision fairly quickly, which means that you might not want to take too much time to sleep on it or any of those types of things in delaying a purchasing decision with a potential seller, just because chances are you're not going to be the only one in line to purchase that. So that also means that it would really be best to have cash on hand to be able to make that type of purchase. Now, this is just a side note that we personally don't feel like that it is wisdom to finance recreational vehicles that are a second home or a toy or
anything that depreciates in value fast.
Right. So a depreciating asset such as a car, a motorhome, a boat,
anything with
ski,
wheels.
if it has wheels or if it has a motor, it's going to go down in value. So personally, we just don't feel like that it's wisdom to finance those types of purchases. We prefer to save and pay outright for those types of purchases. But that also sets you up to be able to make a very quick purchasing decision. It also puts you in a great position with a potential seller to be able to close that deal quickly because you don't have to wait on any sort of financing decision from a financial institution. So if you're planning on purchasing an RV in 2021, be ready to do it quick.
Number 6, if you plan on renting an RV, book it now.
Yeah, there's lots of great places to check for RV rentals too. So options like RV Easy, Outdoorsy, RV Share.
RVAmerica.com.
There's the RV America. There is the El Monte. We'll put links below for some of these resources for you if you're considering renting an RV in 2021. But with the demand and short supply, it's something that you want to do now, like this week. So if you plan on renting, make sure that you start looking for what you want to rent and get that deposit and reservation in now.
And that's it. Those are our predictions for 2021.
And also several tips to help you make the most out of RV life in the coming year as well.
Thank you so much for watching. If you found this video helpful, please hit that subscribe button down below.
Also, let us know in the comments. Have you started trip planning yet for 2021? Do you have those plans in place? Do you have any reservations made yet? Or are you still trying to do the research? We would love to hear from you below.
Yeah.
And make sure that you tune in next week where we're going to go over tips on how we trip plan, how we cost project, and we're going to be bringing you some helpful resources to be able to help you in your trip planning and in your cost projections as well. So hit that subscribe button. Make sure that you stay tuned for next week's video as well.
Tip number 4, you're going to want to...
There's the El Monte. They're called El Monte. Yeah.
El Monte.
Yeah.